now
So,
you have
so
a bunch.
how did you get into STEM in the first place? Because it sounds like your parents, it might not have been on your parents' radar. And I
Actually,
know that's
that's
how.
really that's really funny because okay, right, I wasn't offered a lot of like encouragement in that, but the funny thing is my parents actually owned a little mom and pop computer store when I was
Oh, no
growing
way.
up. So
Cool.
I remember being like, counter height, like I could barely see over the counter, and like watching the guy in the back soldering the machines. Because, like when I was a kid, you didn't like when your computer broke, you didn't like send it away or like, you got it fixed. It was not like disposable or like, oh, send it and they'll repair it and send it and sell it to someone as refurbished or whatever. No. So that was like a repair guy in the back. You bring your computer in and he's, literally soldering on the computer itself. So yeah, I think I was just around it. So that's what made me feel comfortable enough to like, when I was out in the world, be like, oh, this is interesting to me. But, coming from like the expectations of, what like a little ballerina looks like, you don't get offered as many of the like more masculine, like in that era, like one generation above me, that was a masculine thing to be an engineer or to be a computer geek or whatever they wanted to call you. So yeah, I kind of had like that both sides tugging at me, like, oh, this is really cool and I feel comfortable because I've been around it and whatever. So I actually ended up going, I kind of like kept that in the back of my head. I did take a few like computer art courses in high school, but that weren't honestly very good, but they at least kept me like in it. And then I went to art school. I thought I was going to do advertising and like produce TV commercials, but that didn't really work out. I graduated 2008. There was like no jobs. So I was like, I like teaching. I like computer stuff because that was in my background. My mom's actually a teacher. So I got a job at the Apple store teaching computers.
Nice.
So I did that for a bunch of years. And that was interesting because I met so many people. Just, everyone comes into the Apple store, right? So you have like this really wide range of personalities that you meet, expectations that people have for you and all that. And through those classes, we sat down and I would teach people how to use like Final Cut Pro and like Keynote and like, how to even use a mouse sometimes, like all ranges of people. And
I didn't know that the Apple Store actually taught classes. Is that something that they still do?
I don't know how. I know that they still do something, but yeah, it used to be that you basically would book time with me. Like we would kind of consider ourselves like the shrinks of the Apple Store. Like I could sit down and make you feel better about your relationship with your computer for an hour.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it would be like these one-on-one classes with people, and then we would do like small group workshops. And then the bigger store, the one that I worked at in Soho, we actually had a theater. So there would be like, a group of maybe like 30, 40 people could sit down and learn at once too, like a classroom.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was like really interesting because I was like watching people learn software and kind of like make them feel good about, their confidence and their abilities to use everything. And then one of my students, actually, I was explaining that like, I really kind of love this like whole smart home thing, like all these cool products are coming in, like I really would love to know how to like be a creator of that, not like a consumer of all this. And she told me about this program at NYU that was called ITP, and it's basically like a combination of like art and tech. So, and she was was a professor somewhere else in NYU, and she was like, you need to go here to find people that are like you, who are like this like weird mashup of artist techie enthusiasts. And she was right. So I went there, and that's kind of how I so like really I come at it hard from like an arts, like I'm just here to support my art, but I want to be able to learn how to incorporate all of this, because there's so much more length than anyone will ever let you believe, So, I hate that, like, they put kids into boxes and say, like, oh, are you good at art or are you good at science? It's like both.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, yes. Can there be room for all of that?
right,
Yes.
right.
And it's interesting how many people think that engineers are not creative,
Right.
right? And I'm just
Yeah.
like, I don't know what engineers you've been hanging out with, but man, engineers are some of the most creative people I know, actually.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I
It's
definitely about breaking down those weird stereotypes and misconceptions.